friends, welcome back to Draws in Spanish. If you're new here, I'm your host, Fabiola. I'm an illustrator and podcaster based in Philadelphia. On this show, I chat with Latinx visual artists to discuss everything from their identity and culture to their creative process and work. Today, I've got a little news. If you didn't listen to the bonus episode, you may have missed that I've opened the Draws in Spanish Discord to the public, so you can join right now for free. It's a chill digital space where you can hang out regularly and chat between episodes. Lately, I've been hosting weekly hour-long co-working sessions for anyone who wants to join over on the Discord. So if you want to be a part of that, head to drawsinspanish.com/chat or click the link in the show notes. I've also created a hotline for the show, so if you have any questions for me about topics and themes that we cover on the show, you can leave me a question at 305-985-3729, and I'll get back to you on a mini episode. Today, I'm chatting with Puerto Rican web-based digital performance artist Amalia Soto, more widely known as Amalia Soto. Molly rose to fame in the late 2000s, early 2010s on Tumblr, and was a huge it girl who openly shared about her life online at a time when that was truly rare. She continues to explore the concepts of being a girl on the internet today and the performative nature of internet culture through her video pieces. She's created videos like Inbox Full, where she reads all her Tumblr inbox messages over 10 hours. And her latest piece is This Thing On, where she cleans her digital room on a collaborative live stream. Although her work may appear cute on face value, it actually confronts a lot of the more dark themes involved with showing up online. Keep on listening to hear us talk about her relationship with her Boricua identity, how she feels about the evolution of performing online, and the nostalgia involved with working with such a fast-paced medium such as the internet. Okay, let's get into today's show. Welcome to the show, Molly. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yay! I'm so excited to have you here. You are famous in my eyes, famous forever in my eyes. So I'm thrilled to have you here. One of the first things I want to talk about, so I'm not sure how familiar you are with the show, but I like to talk to people about their culture and their work because I feel like a lot of the times it kind of goes a little bit unsaid or unspoken. So I want to kind of get into it a little bit here with you because I remember when I realized that you were Latina, that you're Puerto Rican, I was like, oh my gosh, I've never known this. And it's cool, right? I'm like, okay, cool. Brownie points or whatever you want to call it, right? I was like, oh, cool, that's nice. But you never really address it, which is totally fine. But now I'm like, can we address it? Can we talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I also feel like I don't get asked about it very often.
Which is weird, though, because according to your Wikipedia, which I love that you have a Wikipedia, you were born in Puerto Rico. So yes. There's like, I mean, that's kind of big.
Yeah, it's funny. It's always been, yeah, I was born there. Both of my parents are from there. My parents are college professors, so we moved to the U.S. when I was pretty young, like 3 or 4, for their jobs, teaching jobs. And when you're a college professor, you're kind of sent wherever you get a good job. So we moved to Indiana. And, no family in Indiana, no ties to Indiana at all.
Cultural Mecca.
Yeah, interesting
I shouldn't say
place.
That word, I guess. I forgot that word. We shouldn't use it. I messed it up. I'm going to leave it. But yeah, that's a big dramatic change from Puerto Rico. So just to confirm, your parents are Puerto Rican, like culturally, they didn't just like move there?
No, they're both grew up there. My dad... It's interesting. My dad grew up there, had never lived in the U.S. prior to us moving. My mom, her parents were also professors. So she spent some time in the U.S., like in childhood, like in Oakland and in New York at some points, and then went to college in the U.S. as well. So it's interesting. My mom doesn't have an accent at all, and my dad does.
Got it. Oh, fascinating. I love this. I feel like that's like a perfect, just like a weird mixture, right? Because it's like your family is Puerto Rican, but also very much. And then, I mean, of course, Puerto Rico has a very difficult relationship with the US as it is, right? And then seeing it in your own family is kind of interesting. So how was it like for you? I mean, I don't know how old you were. Maybe you could clarify, but how was it like for you to move to Indiana?
So we initially moved to Fort Worth, Texas, actually, when I was 3 or 4. That's where I learned to speak English. And so my parents were like, oh, you were always saying howdy and y'all, which is cute, but I don't remember. And I remember being really excited to move to the US because I really wanted to experience snow. And I really wanted to live in a house with stairs. I don't know why, like, stairs were a big deal to me, but it just wasn't a thing.
Because movies.
Yeah, something about stairwells. And when we moved to Texas, neither of those things happened.
No, I was about to say, it's like ranch-style homes and like a desert.
So I was very disappointed, but then we only lived there for a year, and then we moved to Indiana, where where both of my dreams were realized.
Yes, I'm so happy. I'm so glad you got to experience. And was it everything you hoped for?
It was interesting. I was so little. I think it would have been a lot different had I been even just a couple years older. But, for me, it wasn't a huge shock or anything by that means. Like, I hadn't really built strong friendships or anything. I think if I had been maybe in like grade school, it would have felt a little bit different. So for me, it wasn't that big of a shock. I think it was harder for my parents, honestly. And yeah, so my parents were always made a lot of observations about like Midwestern culture, or they were always talking about like personal space bubbles and like the sort of niceties of Midwestern culture.
How culturally diverse was Bloomington, Indiana for you while you were there? Because it is a college town, so I'm assuming there's like a mix of people, but also it's the Midwest, which has kind of this connotation of being, American white.
Yeah, it's interesting because, Indiana, very red state, pretty conservative, can feel almost Southern in certain parts. I mean, Bloomington's like Southern central Indiana. I think because of the college, there was maybe a more diverse range of people. Like, so it wasn't super sort of Midwest American white. I mean, it was, but it also wasn't only that. It probably would have been different had I grown up in like a smaller town, or, I mean, Bloomington's small, but like a smaller town without that sort of draw. So, and I would say like my friends sort of ranged from like all sorts of different backgrounds because of the college. Obviously, like a bunch of people from all over the world were being brought there. And it was really funny because my parents would make friends with every Spanish speaking person in the university.
Yeah, by default.
Like they had to, like, my parents would just befriend. And my dad was in the Spanish department, to be fair. He's a Spanish professor, so obviously. But they were tried to get really involved in just like finding community, other Puerto Ricans or just other people from Spanish-speaking countries. So that was like always. And I had like those friends. Like I had like my parents' friends, children friends that were like also
default friends.
Yeah, like I had this friend Angela, which like I don't even know what she's up to anymore. I would love to like see her again. But the thing is, college professors befriend other college professors, and then those college professors move because they get other jobs. So it was always very like, there'd be like these people in my life that were really present for a certain amount of time, and then they would get a job in Australia or.
So it's like chapters of your life that would dramatically change
exactly
like, the cast of people in your life.
Yeah.
Interesting. Did you ever feel like you were rejecting kind of this Latin American culture that your family had? Or did you feel like totally at ease with it? Or what was what was your relationship like with being Puerto Rican as a, let's say, teenager, like in your adolescence? Because I feel like it can be very convoluted and confusing.
Yeah, I think it is confusing. I think, for me also, like, I don't think that someone would look at me and think that I'm Puerto Rican necessarily, even though Puerto Rican people can look many different ways. So for me, it was also like, I was like, well, I like can seamlessly embed into Midwestern American teenage culture, right? Like, it's really easy for me to look. Sorry, my cat is stretching. He's been sleeping. But I think I was always like, you know, proud of being Puerto Rican, and like it was a part of my identity. But also at the same time, I didn't like wear it up front. If anything, it's always been like sort of personal to me, or like private, or just like between me and my family. Also because I couldn't share that. I didn't grow up with any other real Puerto Rican friends aside from Angela, who moved away probably when I was like, 13 or something. I didn't have a lot of people to share kind of some of these cultural things with. A lot of my friends were from all over, but I just didn't, like, if I had grown up in New York, for example, or Orlando or Chicago, where there's like larger pockets of Puerto Rican people, it probably would have been a very different experience for me. Or maybe I would have felt more in touch with that. But I think I always felt like it was a part of me, but it wasn't like at the forefront. And I still feel that way in some ways.
Yeah, like the importance of it is questionable to your identity, right? Like it's significant, but it's not necessarily the biggest point, right? When you go to explain who you are, or as a part of your identity. I love that, because I felt similarly, and that's kind of why I wanted to make this show, was because it's like, to me, it's like, oh yeah, I'm Chilean, like you. I feel like I can blend right into American culture. I grew up in Florida, and yeah, I could just blend in, and that was to my advantage in many ways. Because being outspokenly Latina came with some, I mean, was it cool? Like, not really, like what was cool then was just being like white. So it wasn't to my advantage.
Yeah.
It's not like I rejected it, but I also didn't feel the need to embrace it actively, which is kind of what I'm hearing you say. And, but this is kind of amazing, because in your adolescence, you were so Tumblr famous. I mean, I know it was later on, maybe in college, but still, like, you rose to fame in that sense, and then became kind of like like an icon of like being if I were just looking at you, I'd be like, oh, this is just like what a cool white girl online looks like. But then you weren't, and that's like even better, because you made it even more cool or something.
Yeah. It's funny, too, that I chose the name Amalia Soto, which doesn't have, like, Amalia Soto has, like, you're like, okay, where is she from, right? But, like, Amalia Soto, you're like, it's completely devoid of any personality. And it wasn't my intention. I mean, it was my username, but it wasn't, like, necessarily my intention to, like, ever go by that for ever. So it's funny how many people actually call me Molly now.
How do you feel about it now? Like, about having picked that pseudonym?
Yeah, I feel fine about it. I mean, it made sense. It was just a username initially, but I was also really into, and there were some conceptual reasons behind it. Like, at the time when I made the username, which was around 2009, so I would have been a sophomore or junior in college, I was really into Lydia Lunch of, Teenage Jesus and the Jerks, and just like downtown 80s New York scene, cool girl. And I was like, oh, I was really just like, oh, Lydia Lunch, like Molly Soda. Like, I don't know, it like made sense in my mind.
Like a character that could match. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also I was like thinking about sort of like scene queens, or like MySpace era, scene queens, and sort of how they always had these kind of like username style names, or like MySpace style names. So I was thinking about these sort of
alter ego names,
personas. Yeah. And so that's where it started, but I didn't know that it would take on sort of a life of its own.
I mean, yeah, when we're in high school and in college, I don't think anyone's thinking like that far ahead. I want to talk a little bit more about your artwork. I know that in the work that you do now as a digital performance artist, we're going to call it, I know you're interested in how like we present ourselves online. How do you feel about podcasts? Do they feel more, less genuine? How do you feel about podcasting coming into kind of the sphere of online digital media?
That's interesting. I've never been asked to talk about podcasts on a podcast.
I'm just like, you're like, you think a lot about the internet. So why not?
Did you say genuine?
Yeah. Does it feel more or less genuine? Because I know that we're talking about performing, but performing doesn't necessarily mean it's disingenuous, but.
No, I don't think that a podcast feels more genuine by any means. I think that there is perhaps less control. There's more control on your side because this is your podcast. So,
I'm the puppet master.
As a guest, I don't think that it feels more genuine, other than the fact that perhaps I'm giving up some of that control in my answers or in my presentation. But at the same time, I think we're doing that in general online all the time. Like whenever you post something, it's kind of out of your hands, right? You're kind of like subject to other people's personal feelings and ways of interpreting you. But I think ultimately it's pretty hard to control a narrative or to control how you're going to be perceived. So I think the podcast can fall into that as well. Me appearing on a podcast feels supplementary to, it's an interview, right? So like it's press in a weird way. Or at least this format is, where I think maybe like if I were hosting one and just like babbling or rambling, maybe that would feel more performative.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that definitely could be an interesting space for you to explore. Not that you haven't already. In some ways you have already with YouTube.
Yeah. And a lot of YouTube videos are podcasts, or like I've seen that a lot now.
Yes. This one will be as well.
Oh, sick. Okay. Hi, YouTube.
So hi, YouTube. And plug for my YouTube channel and also your YouTube channel. But okay, there's a lot of places we can go. So my mind always like freaks out for a second. But you were saying like, yeah, we're always performing online. Like just being online is performance, is kind of what you're getting at. And there's a quote here that you said in an interview: "We're always performing. What changes is the size of the audience," which is like a really fascinating way to look at it. Because we all think about follower counts, but I never think about how they are what I'm thinking about actively, right? So do you think that this is a silly question. A lot of artists are always thinking about their follower counts. They're like, I don't have enough followers, or like, no one will hire me because I don't have followers. Do you think, as like a performance artist, in a sense, like if you don't have followers, is it not performance? Like, I kind of feel like a little bit like philosophical with this, in the sense of like, if a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, doesn't make a sound. Like, does that ever play into your own work? Like, if you were to lose all of your followers for some reason, like, would you still be doing this kind of work? How would it impact it? Let's talk about it.
If I were to lose all of my followers, like if I had...
Or like dramatically, like a dramatic loss.
Oh, I mean, I lose followers every time I post pretty much at this point.
The nature of the internet, of course.
Yeah, and aging and relevancy and all these factors, But if I had let's say I had 0 followers, right? Like, I like entertaining this idea. Let's say I have a burner account. It's private. I have 0 followers, but I'm still documenting my life or documenting myself in some way. I'm still performing. You know why? Because there's a camera. Okay. And the second that the camera comes out, no matter which camera it is, webcam, my vlogging camera, my phone, whatever it is, it's still performance. It's just the way that whenever I catch my glimpse in a mirror, I pose. I change my face. My face literally changes when I make my selfie face when I look in the mirror. And I didn't even realize I did that until other people pointed out. They're like, you changed like your mouth, like you like pose. I think it's at this juncture, the awareness of the reflection or the self being reflected or the self being documented feels, even though there may never be anyone that sets eyes upon that image or whatever it may be, it still is being mediated by the lens, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you're still putting on for the camera.
Exactly.
Whether or not someone's watching it.
Yeah.
Lovely. Yes, I can totally understand that. And it kind of reminds me of, and I'm wondering if you've seen this, like kids, like, under 5 who watch YouTube and then they like record YouTube videos on their parents' phones. And those videos don't go anywhere. It's just like the parents have them. They're just like and subscribe. Like they're doing it. They're performing YouTube videos so early on.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just soak in sort of all of this information, right? Or like you mirror back certain things that you see.
100%. And it's so kind of normalized, which leads me into my next question. I know that your work is really all about you in a way, but also a reflection of kind of the way the internet is now. So why do you think girls on the internet are so important?
Girls are the internet, for me anyway. I think that young women and girls dictate so much of culture and what is popular, but they're also always infantilized and not taken seriously online or in general. But I'm specifically thinking about like online and trends, and like they're the most marketed to, the most sold to, but they're also seen as vapid, shallow, only caring about things that like aren't actually important. I'm really interested in online girl spaces, for better or for worse. Some of the I'm not like celebrating everything that's happening within popular online girl trends, but I'm interested in them and I'm interested in what they mean in a broader context, and also the connections between them. To me, there was something that felt sort of rebellious or transgressive or like special, or like I was like living multiple lives and like I was super interesting and cool when I was online as a teenager. And then as I got older, I was like, oh, everyone's on this. Like people that look like the girls that I went to high school with that I thought were like cooler and prettier than me are now online, and like they're influencers now. Like it's not like a niche
fascinating
thing.
Way to think about it. Yes, before it was very like alt.
It was alt.
It was alt to be online, and then everyone got online, and then it became a regular popularity contest instead of a weirdo popularity contest.
And there's still weirdo popularity contest. You also realize, this is funny to say. It's like being the alt girl in the Midwest who moves to New York and realizes that there's a lot of other people that dress and look like you and like the same shit as you. And then it's the same thing online. It's like, you're like, oh, we're all actually the same.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of me. Like nothing that I experienced was that unique. How do you feel about Tumblr looking back? Because that was like kind of a really big moment for you in your art career, right? Because it's kind of what pushed this persona of Molly Soda to like the mainstream, let's say, or to the people. So how do you feel about Tumblr in hindsight? Now, before we keep going with this conversation, I just wanted to interrupt to let you know that you can now watch this episode on YouTube. Just subscribe to my channel at youtube.com/Fabiolita Draws. If you want to listen and watch the extended version of this episode with Molly, that means an extra 20 to 30 minutes of this interview, then head over to patreon.com/Draws in Spanish. By joining the Patreon, you get access to extended episodes, monthly personal podcast episodes from me, and the opportunity to submit questions for future guests. If you want to be a part of all that and so much more, become a Patreon for Draws in Spanish by heading to patreon.com/Draws in Spanish. While I'm at it, shout out to my current patrons, Adrian, Lauren, Teresa, Holly, and Marie for supporting the show. You are all my favorites. Thank you so much for being early supporters of the show. It means so much to me. Okay, that's enough. Come join the Patreon. Let's get back into today's episode.
I still use Tumblr. I love it. Tumblr's back, in my opinion, but
everyone says Tumblr is back. No one's interacting with each other, I feel, or just posting.
I'm very much on Tumblr, but I don't know anyone that I'm following. Like there'll be like suggestions, to follow, and I'll just click like follow. I'll just follow like anyone because I want to get more people on my feed, because everyone that I used to follow is like, no, maybe they deleted their Tumblr, they're not on it anymore, we've lost touch, whatever. That's current Tumblr. But to talk about like Tumblr as a whole, or like my trajectory with it. I mean, I think of Tumblr really fondly. I obviously it wasn't without its issues, surely, but like it's where I really was able to meet other artists, have like a sense of community online that felt bigger than maybe what I had been limited to on like LiveJournal or MySpace or some of these younger platforms. And I think what was so fun about Tumblr too was just that it was unlike any other platform that I'd used. So I'd gone from doing all these sort of more diaristic blogging, traditional diary blogging platforms to something that felt more like, oh, all the stuff that I've saved to my desktop, I can just upload here. Or like, it's like more of a mood board, and it can be a blog, but it can be all these other things, and you're still able to customize, and like, finding other people is interesting. Yeah.
Because MySpace like put us all in this little like, it was hard to customize. They wanted their profile to look a certain way. And then Tumblr came and you could kind of do whatever you wanted.
Yeah. Tumblr had a little more room with like themes. I always say that Tumblr was the last sort of customizable platform before we started moving into like the more like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter of it all, TikTok now. But it was kind of the last place where you could add a little bit of flair to the interface. But yeah, I remember Tumblr really fondly. And it was really interesting because when I started my Tumblr, I didn't know where it would go. I remember starting it and, having some intentions with it. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to be so excited when I get my first 500 followers. Like I wanted 500 followers. I remember I was like, I'm going to throw a party when I get 500 Tumblr followers, because to me that was like the pinnacle of success, right?
And follower counts weren't even public.
They weren't public; they were private.
So you could lie.
So you could lie, but I would never do that. Would I tell a lie? No. And I remember my Tumblr really like gaining popularity pretty steadily for a minute, but like it really blew up in like 2010, 2011, 2012. Where people were like finding me from Tumblr and like adding me on Facebook and like finding me on these other platforms and being like, and it started like growing out of control. And I remember it had like surpassed 500 followers. And I was sort of like, oh, I didn't even recognize that I had made 500. Like it wasn't like momentous anymore to me because like it was moving so quickly. And I was really shocked. And it's so interesting because I was popular on Tumblr, right? But I probably at most have ever had 60,000 followers on Tumblr. Okay. Think about how small potatoes 60,000 followers is now. Like 60,000 followers on Instagram, whatever. 60,000 on TikTok, you're not even on anyone's radar. Okay. Like 60,000 on YouTube, you're probably not even getting sponsorships, So like, it's so interesting how I was like so big and within a community, like a niche, I wasn't like the biggest Tumblr user by any means. I'm sure there were other girlies that were more popular than me, but like,
I can't think of one.
Yeah, but that's because we're like in the same niche, we're like, people will do these like TikTok videos where they talk about early Tumblr, but they're talking about all these girls and I'm like, I don't know who these girls are. And I'm like, this is like normie Tumblr. Like, I'm like, I don't know what like I don't think Tumblr was for normie people, but it was like less weird than what I think me and like my peers were doing on Tumblr, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. And I also think like, yeah, nowadays 60,000 seems like a drop in the bucket, I think is the saying. I don't know why I wanted to say it. But at the time, like how many users were on the internet? Probably a lot less than today.
A lot less, but still like it's so, I guess Tumblr was just actually not that popular of a website that it felt, or I don't know I don't know like how many users they had.
I think it was pretty popular like before Instagram came on, like we were all using Tumblr.
That's true.
Like and Instagram came on in 2010 and it probably didn't catch like where you had like where you started like using it for people outside of just your friends until like what, 2011 or 12 when you started.
True. I think I got my Instagram in like maybe 2012 or 2013 and it was a joke. Like I would post like a picture of my foot and like with the Kelvin filter on it and be like at work.
And this is just like for my 10 close friends who follow me, like it wasn't for like a huge public audience.
Exactly.
Which is fascinating to think about it. But So yeah, I feel like still Tumblr was the place to be. How do you feel about the fact that it was like, okay, this is me now assuming. Okay, so you correct me if I'm wrong here. But I feel like what took off from your blog, from your Tumblr, was like photos of you. I feel like we're always in my feed. How does that feel looking back? I know we were just talking about aging and relevancy and all that kind of stuff. So like now that you have some distance from it, how do you feel about having been kind of like the product of yourself? I don't know, like performing like that at that age.
I feel fine about it. I've always used my likeness in my work. And I think that the funnest thing about it for me is that I've always just felt like an avatar or like a digital. Like when I take a selfie and I post it to the internet, I enter the sea of other girl selfies, right? Like,
which is great.
Yeah, I love it. Like, I love it's both like me, but it also feels anonymous and flat. Like I can be
private at the same time.
Exactly. And like, I like that there's so many iterations of me and so many like entry points. And I like that I can be like saved to someone's desktop and forgotten or printed out or hung up on a wall or deleted or
like people pinning you like in their blogs as part of their identity. And like Pinterest, it's like very fascinating to think about.
I like being sort of not a void, but I think that there's something appealing about that for me that feels both like me, but also anonymous. Like I remember I think about this all the time. And on MySpace, my bio just said, I want to tell you everything and nothing at the same time. And I wrote this in high school, but I actually like find that very like relevant to like how I've lived my life online. And so I kind of enjoy, I think there was a point in time. And I think that this is very natural. I think that we become embarrassed of a most recent self. We think like, oh, who I was like a couple years ago, humiliating. And maybe as we get older, we don't feel that way as much. I definitely don't feel that way as much. But like when you're out of high school and you see like your high school stuff, you're like, oh, cringe, like, ew, like I didn't know what I was doing. And then like once you get enough distance from that, you're like, oh, actually, like I looked cool, or like I was into cool stuff, or like I'm nostalgic for these things again, right? And I think there was a period of time after the height of Tumblr where things were waning, and I was sort of like, oh, I'm sad that people only know me from Tumblr, or like they only think about Tumblr me and they don't know about all this other stuff that I'm doing now, or like Tumblr me is so cringe, like, ew, like I was so chaotic and like blah, blah, blah. Now I look at Tumblr me like very fondly and like I love her. But like there's always that weird chunk of time where you want to like distance yourself from the most recent version of yourself.
Yes, where you want to like delete it all.
Yeah, and I never let myself delete anything. I mean, I try not to, but
I love that you're doing that you committed to that, because I deleted MySpace me and I wish I could have her back.
Oh, I wish I could have MySpace me. I deleted my MySpace the day I lost my virginity, and wrote about it on my live journal.
I'm done. You're like, it's a new me.
Yeah, I was like, okay,
she's a virgin. Delete. That's so good. That's so good.
And that's fine.
You're like, I need a dramatic change.
I'll take that. Like, it's fine. I regret, I would love to see it, but it's fine. But I think we are really quick to delete. And I think and maybe I'm just like a sicko who likes to see that stuff later or like experience that later. But I just want to, I want to keep it all, even if it feels painful in the moment to keep it. I know I'll care about it later.
Yes. I know you just said like you see yourself as kind of like an avatar, like when people are experiencing your photos and consuming, let's say, your Tumblr and even your work today, right? Because it's like a persona of you. How do you feel about the 3D avatars that exist now that have like entire personas and like lives, fake lives? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about? I don't have the name of one right now.
Michaela?
Yes, exactly. Like, how do you feel about that? Because in some sense, they're like faking it.
They're not fake. I mean,
what are they making? I don't know.
No one's faking anything, right? Like, I don't know. We're real and fake. Like, you know, to me, the avatar stuff, in some ways, I think is smart. I mean, there are artists there's an artist that I'm thinking of that I really like who exists as an avatar, La Tribu Abaddon, and has always sort of existed as avatars. So I think that is sort of pre the avatar influencer. But yeah, like the little Michaelas of the world, I find it kind of interesting. I mean, it's really funny because I know one of the people that created her, and he had early on, I was like really broke. I was living in Detroit, and he texted me and he was like, I'll pay you like $100 if you send me some selfies. I'm working on this he like explained the little Michaela avatar thing. I think the initial thing with her was that she was going to release music. Like they were going to start this 3D avatar and then release music. I think she maybe did, but I'm not quite sure. He was like, send me a selfie and I'll like Photoshop, we'll like add it with the avatar, right? And so one of her earliest posts on Instagram is like us at Coney Island, is like a selfie of me and her. But then all these people became really upset. This is actually so funny to me, this obsession with whether or not she was real. All these people online became really obsessed with the fact that whether little Michaela was real or not. Real, what does that mean? I don't know. Do they mean like, is there an actual person that looks like her behind her? Like, is she, I'm not really sure, but there were all these.
That was never my question with little Michaela.
No, I never had any questions about it. And people saw that picture of me with her and thought that I had created her. So there were a lot of people messaging me all the time being like, is she real? Like, did you make her? Like, there were YouTube conspiracy videos going around about it. It was a whole thing. And I was getting this influx of people thinking that I had created this avatar, some that were upset with me about it and some that were curious and whatever. I did not. I think it's public knowledge now who did, but I don't think that, I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't see any issues with it.
I just wanted to get your opinion on it. I always found it, my only concern with Lil Michaela was like, Lil Michaela, I think she was meant to be a girl, but whatever her gender or not, I don't know. I kind of was like, is someone exploiting girl culture, internet girl culture, who's not an internet girl, who doesn't know the ups and downs of being an internet girl?
That's true.
Like, how nice to be able to opt in to being a girl online.
Yes. That's a really good point.
And use it for profit, let's say.
And use it for profit. Yeah. I mean, I wish I'd thought of it, you know, like I wish I was a fake influencer making some money and not having to put myself out there to do it.
I don't know about you, but I always still think, not so much now, but like, and I didn't then, but I think about it now, is like how predatory men can be online. And like when you're a teenage girl putting yourself out there, you kind of open up yourself to that in some sense, right? Whether you welcome it or not, just by being online and being who you want to be online, you welcome creeps. But Lil Michaela, like, I don't know, they can't stalk her. You know?
Yeah, it is a safety. I mean, maybe we should all be
we should all be avatars. Yeah. And the other thing that you had mentioned was like this concept of being nostalgic for like previous versions of yourself. And I know you have this desktop dump project that I find fascinating because I think with digital media, we like move so quickly that we forget and we don't care to forget, right? So can you tell me more about this project and how you feel about the desktop as a private space? Because it's something I never really thought about actively, but sometimes I find old screenshots of like my computer in college and I'm like, oh yeah, I wish I could open that folder right now and like see what I had in there.
Yeah. And like, also you don't realize how much interfaces change over time because it's so constantly sort of updating and seamlessly
and out of your control.
Like, absolutely.
You have to update it.
You don't even think about interfaces at all, which I find really interesting. I like thinking about that and I'm like addicted to saving everything and archiving everything and the practice of that. And so the desktop dump came about during the pandemic, very beginning of the pandemic. I think I made my first one in May of 2020. And I don't really advertise them. I don't really talk about them very much. They're sort of like hidden on my website. Like you have to kind of scroll and like click on the right image and then you'll get brought to the desktop dump page. But basically what they are is that I love desktops. I like using interfaces in my work. I like playing with those spaces on the computer. And the desktop for me has always been kind of the last untouched space of sort of private space that the internet doesn't see. Like, you know how thrilling it is when like you have like a guest speaker or someone's giving a presentation and they're like plugging their computer into the projector, and then like you get a glimpse of their desktop and you get to like see like a little bit of insight into who they are.
Yes. And if they're smart, they put everything in one folder.
Totally.
Called like nothing.
Yeah. There's something really intimate about the desktop space because it is sort of this weird dumping ground. And I save everything online. I scroll and I save things. And whenever I'm working on a project, generally instead of making a folder for that project, it just goes onto the desktop. It's a mess, you know, but it's beautiful.
Crazy.
Like
that's like amazing because in this day and age, we rely so much on the cloud that you could really get by without saving anything.
Oh, I've never used the cloud.
So that was my next question was what's your relationship with the cloud? Do you have any cloud storage happening? This is all hard drive?
I use Dropbox and I use Google Drive mostly for stuff that I want to share with people or like what might want access to. I have a lot of hard drives. I have multiple computers. Like it's kind of a mess. I'm not very organized. If I like had more money or more time, maybe I would like hire someone to help me deal with my file organization. But I try to sometimes, but I just like, it's a mess.
Especially when you've been creating stuff for as long as you have.
So long. Yeah. And it's a lot of files because I'm mostly working in a digital environment. So I'm not really working so much with physical stuff, which is nice because I don't have to store everything, but I'm drowning in files. I love my files. So anyway, but yeah, so I'll save to the desktop a lot and then eventually I'll go and clean it up and try and sort, put everything away. And I decided, I was like, oh, it would be an interesting practice to, when I decide that it's time for me to clean my desktop, I'll just upload everything online and make it public and make these sort of like desktop collages, essentially. Because it's not like I'm not necessarily just like giving you the files, but I'm trying to arrange them in a way that like feels visually pleasing to me. And so on my website, I make sort of a separate page for each desktop dump. And I don't do them every month. Sometimes it's just whenever I get to it. So like there's actually a desktop dump that I started for the computer that I'm on right now. And I started it probably last month and haven't finished it because there's so many files and it takes me like hours upon hours to do these, depending on how many files I end up gathering. But I think the process of making it public is really interesting because I start to think about the desktop, a space that was once untouched. I start to curate a little bit, or I start to be like, if I know that I'm going to make a desktop dump or something, I'm like, oh, should I save this here? Maybe I should put it in a folder. No, there's too much stuff. You start curating the minute that you make something public. And even the desktop dump is like so semi-public. It's not really like, people aren't really like looking at them that often, but it's interesting to see how that changes things.
The relationship. Yeah. The minute you make something public, you're already starting to perform, even if it's, again, just to the camera. On a like technical level, what are you using to create the collages?
So it's pretty straightforward. I use a website called hotglue.me. I'm not really a coder. I have like some limited HTML and CSS knowledge, but I'm not a programmer by any means. I usually hire developers to help me on projects. But Hot Glue is cool because it's basically a website that lets you build websites, and you can just kind of drag and drop and move stuff around. So it's really, really, it's how I built my website. I love it. I tell everyone about it to use it if they don't want to code. And so it's just like it's just part of Hot Glue. I just like upload and can move stuff around. And there's some limitations with it, but it works for this project. I think the only scary thing about it is, obviously, as it is scary to post anything online, is that you don't have, like, Hot Glue could shut down tomorrow. You know what I mean? And so that's my one worry, is like, oh, it would be better if I hard coded this, right? It would be better if I had this saved. And maybe one day I'll go back and do that. But obviously I'm more visual than I am like.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like the most exciting thing to go do.
No.
In hindsight. Especially like backtracking, right? You're like, yeah, it's here.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fascinating. I love to hear how you're putting these things together, because all the platforms that I feel like Squarespace, like if you use Squarespace, it would like kill the whole vibe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's very template based, but
it's just like a template, and you're so not templated online. I'm
so anti-template,
which has to be hard these days because every new app is a template, essentially.
I know.
Okay, something I want to talk about a little bit is I've had a lot of artists on the shows who are like illustrators or graphic designers, so they sell their work, their finished work, right? So like an illustration, or they sell their service of being a graphic designer. How are you selling your digital work or valuing your digital work as a digital artist? I know I just said digital like a million times, but I am curious about this because it's such a new space still, even though online media has existed for a while now.
I mean, I feel like that's like, I don't want to dance around anything, because I feel like you're also asking about NFTs, maybe.
I mean, NFTs is one way people are selling their work, and
yeah, I don't do NFT. I don't personally do NFTs. I've only done one run, which was with a website called Feral File that I really respect and like their curation, which is why I wanted to do it with them. But like normally it's not really my vibe. But for me, as a digital artist, or like an artist that works primarily non-physically, I didn't even really conceive of the fact that I could sell my work online. I always kind of thought that I could sell digital work in general.
I'm just fascinated to talk about it because it feels like it's constantly changing. Like the way that you could potentially capitalize off your work is what's more interesting to me. It's like because it's so obvious with traditional art and services.
I don't make a ton of money off of selling my work. Like, if I'm being upfront, I don't rely on that income at all. I actually I didn't even conceive of being able to sell my work until around 2013, when I sold my first video piece at an auction. It was like at Phillips Auction House. It was like the Tumblr auction, the first ever digital art auction, which was curated by Lindsay Howard, who has helped me a lot in my career. I remember she reached out to me and was like, oh, I'm doing this digital art auction at Phillips Auction House with Tumblr. And like, do you have like a piece that you would want to sell? And I was like, what? I was like, I could sell a video? Like, how? Like, what do you mean? And, she sort of explained it to me, and I was like, wow, like it really like blew my mind.
Do you sell I don't know much about this. That's why I'm asking. Do you sell the literal file? Is it viewable by only that person who buys it? Like, is it up to them?
So for the Tumblr one, it actually, I gave them a USB. Generally speaking, the way that you sell these things is I sell everything on a USB, and there's a certificate of authenticity, which is really what people are buying, right? A signed certificate. The way that one buys an NFT, you're also kind of just buying the certificate of authenticity, essentially.
Yeah. Same with artwork, right?
Yeah, essentially. That one that I made for the Phillips auction was a one of one. So only that person has it. I don't think I even have a copy of it. Probably just because of the crashed hard drives, and I wasn't really thinking about that stuff. It's fine. In general, I make it a point that everything that I sell that's non-physical has to remain online. really the person buying it is buying the rights to show it, or just honestly just supporting me. Obviously, it's different when I sell to an institution because they're going to like do some preservation. They're going to be able to show it in their shows, or they might be able to lend it out to other institutions. So that's kind of my ideal, is to have like the institutional support. Those are the people whose hands I want like the video content in, or the non-physical work content in, because they're going to be able to actually take care of it, or give, this is unstable stuff, right? Like file formats change, things are not supported. If you make things for web, like you want to view them on like the interface, like the Google Chrome from 2021, because that's when the work was made. Like certain things like this have to be considered. And so that is always important to me, to have it like in the right hands, I guess, or the people that are going to be able to preserve it or archive it thoughtfully. And then there's the odd collector who likes to collect digital work prior to the NFT boom, that also is interested in collecting my kind of work. But then another thing that's been really important for me as an artist, one, I'm not precious about any of this stuff. Like everything gets posted online, no matter what.
I just love that about you and your work, because I feel like artists are so precious about things. And I don't want to be precious, and it still it still happens to me out of like, I don't know, this weird bug in my brain that I want to get rid of. And so I'm really impressed by kind of your freedom. I really, really am.
I think like this is one thing that really drives me crazy. There is like a weird preciousness about new media content online that I find very frustrating. And so I try to make everything accessible as much as I can. And then in terms of like selling my work, the average Amalia Soto enjoyer doesn't have, I don't want to say fan. That feels fucked up, like honestly.
Subscriber.
No, I don't like that either. Someone like said fan the other day, and I was like, I hate that. Like, it's so like, it puts me like in a position of like power that I don't enjoy, or like there's something about it. I don't know, but then I'll say like I'm a fan of like people that I think like I'm an equal to. Yeah, I guess it's like I feel weird having fans, but I'm cool with being a fan, I guess. Basically, the average person that follows me probably doesn't have collector money, right? And so it's always been really important for me to make products or like little things that people can collect or buy of mine. Like, I started off making a lot of zines or cheap prints or like like random merch or like shirts. I had like tarot cards that I made. Like there's
available in stock now, available on
in stock now. Yeah. And even to me, like, yeah, it's like, I always try and keep it as cheap as humanly possible. Like my zines were always like $5, and like, I try and like make everything myself if I can, or like cheaply produce it. And that's always been important for me to like have that available. And it's not even for money. Like I don't make that much money off of any of the stuff. If anything, I'm happy. Like I want to break even and be able to get my stuff out there.
I definitely appreciate that. I feel like it makes a lot of sense, especially because of the kind of digital work that you're doing. People who are fans get to consume it for free most of the time. And people who want to own it for whatever, whether it's an institution or just a person who loves to collect art, then they can do that. So I definitely think that's cool that you're playing to kind of both and opening up your options. But can you talk about this new streaming platform that you're working on?
Oh, yeah. Oh, we had a stream last night, actually. So we don't know what we're doing. We know what
Who's
we're doing.
We?
Okay, so I've been working on this project / streaming platform called Is This Thing On? And I'm doing it with an artist named Christopher Clary, an artist named Sarah Rothberg, and another artist named Bhavik Singh. And basically, we got together and started kind of thinking about how streaming platforms, basically, a lot of us, we've all done sort of like various things with streaming platforms. Chrissy does stuff on the camming website called Chatterbait. I've done stuff on like YouTube and various other sort of one-off streams. And Sarah has done sort of like these VR streams also on YouTube, but other various platforms. And so we were just thinking about how streaming platforms kind of like silo groups of artists or people from each other. Like there's like Twitch, which is for like mostly gaming. There's like YouTube, and then there's like the sex cam websites, and how these things are kind of like how it would be interesting to bring people together, have our own sort of rules in terms of service, just give artists more control. And so we've been working on this project. We don't really know what's going to happen. We've had some funding. So we've been like with grants and various things. So we've been sort of going through these things as like seasons. So we started at like season 0, where we started streaming on like existing platforms. It's been a lot of research. It's been a lot of research and development. And then last night, we each stream from our rooms on the actual website itself, which is thing.tube. Anyone can go to it. And it's basically set up like a web ring. So we all each have rooms, and then you can like click through to each other's rooms, and we'll all kind of stream at the same time. So we've been doing these like events where we all stream in our separate rooms, but then you can kind of like hang out together.
Fascinating. I love this because, yeah, streaming is, it's really fun, but also it's hard to control. The mechanics of it are weird. Sometimes it's also weird to be the only person, like being the host can be kind of weird, not sharing the space. It feels very like front and center. If you want it to be a different experience, it sounds like you guys are creating something like that. I love it. Everyone go check out thing.tube. And the last quick fire questions, Molly. Favorite Puerto Rican food?
Okay, this is like, I don't even know if this is Puerto Rican. My mom makes this thing called pastelón de papas, which is basically like a Puerto Rican shepherd's pie. I think it's like just her family that made it. Like, I don't know that it's like a traditional Puerto Rican dish, but it's basically just like mashed potatoes, ground beef with like some olives and like Puerto Rican seasoning like sofrito and sazon and all that. And then another layer of mashed potatoes. So it's like, you know, just like not good for you at all, but it's like so delicious.
It sounds good. I feel like every country, Latin American country, has a version of this. So I would bet you that it is Puerto Rican. I feel like I really do. I've had like a different shepherd's pie at every like so many different kinds of shepherd's pie exist.
It's so comforting to me. I also just like shepherd's pie is one of my favorite foods. So like whenever
American
I go home,
and Puerto Rican.
Yeah, like all of them are good. Any iteration is good to me.
I'm a big potato head, so I like most potato products. Favorite saying? Is there like a Puerto Rican saying or slang or anything that you feel passionate about? Tough question, I know. It can be
passionate about.
I know some people's parents like have certain sayings.
What did my parents say growing
And they're like,
up?
yeah, I still use it to this day.
I mean, there's like Puerto Rican Spanish is different than, I mean, every country's Spanish is like a little bit different, but there's certain words that I like in Puerto Rican Spanish. Like, I love that we call buses guagua.
Yeah, guaguas. Yes.
Yeah, guagua. And then trash cans are zafacon, which I find really funny.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, zafacon.
Okay.
Those are like two that I think of all the time. I don't know. I can't think of a saying off the top of my head. I feel like my parents there's so many words that I didn't realize were like bad words growing up that my parents would like say to me and my sister. Or like little nicknames that I was like, oh, this means something else.
Okay, lovely. And then is there anything about Puerto Rican culture, maybe it can just be in your household, that you wish was like more a part of American culture?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think for me, I mean, I think that Puerto Ricans just like have, I don't know. I think that there's just like a nice energy. I love that, you know, Christmas is like a month long in Puerto Rico. So I'd be into that. Just maybe like more time off. Like, you know, Three Kings Day rolls around. No one knows what the fuck you're talking about. Now it's like the day people storm the Capitol. Like, that's not this January 6th I observe. Okay.
I remember that. Like January 6th, Three Kings Day, storm the Capitol. All the same thing.
So I like that. Culturally, I love the like just more leisure time. Obviously, I'm not Catholic. I didn't grow up Catholic, but Puerto Rico is very Catholic, so it sort of makes sense. And like, I don't necessarily need that element for sure. But like
you're not trying to keep the Christ in Christmas?
I'm not, but I also like do love like, you know, I think like the saints are really cool. I think like my parents, I didn't grow up religious at all, but like I love like every town in Puerto Rico has its own saint and its own like celebration for that saint. And like my parents have like all these wonderful like wooden saints in their house. Like I do like some of that Catholic vibe, but maybe not like, maybe more culturally than actually.
Yes, like as a tradition, not so much in energy, like Catholic guilt energy. Okay, so more Catholicism in the U.S.
No,
I'm messing with I'm messing with you completely. Okay, that's it. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for your time and your energy and your honesty and your openness. I really loved it.
Thanks for having me. That was so fun.
Okay, friends, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with video performance artist Amalia Soto. Be sure to follow her work on Tumblr or Instagram. I'll leave everything linked in the show notes. Now, before you go, I have to remind you to subscribe to the show if you like this episode. It's free and really helps me keep making the show for you. So please remember to hit subscribe. If you want to connect with other Latinx artists in our Draws in Spanish community, then join the free Discord at drawsinspanish.com/chat. And if you'd like to listen to the extended version of this episode for even more chit chat with Molly, then head to patreon.com/drawsinspanish to get access. That's all I have for you. See you next Tuesday. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the Discord. Bye.